This program is brought to you by the Georgia Neurosurgical Institute. For over 50 years, rendering neurosurgical care to patients of all social conditions, treating complicated problems involving the brain, spine, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves, endeavoring to encourage quality care, medical research, innovation, and education on a local, national, and international basis.
Good evening. My name is Joe Sam Robinson. It's my pleasure to have with us tonight Marjie Dickey. Welcome, Marjie.
Well, thank you, Dr. Robinson.
Now, we have all kinds of unusual discussions here, erudite discussions, and there are a lot of issues that maybe the public needs to know a little about. And one of them is Georgia Reach, which I think you're a major person in that. What exactly is Georgia Reach? What is that?
Well, Reach Georgia was started in 2012 by Governor Nathan Deal, and it was really brought about because of the Complete College Georgia initiative that Governor Deal started. And the Complete College Georgia initiative was started to get roughly 250,000 more students to graduate from college with either a post-secondary certificate, degree, to come back and enter our workforce, because they did a scan of Georgia and there was a stronger workforce needs than we had, or jobs than we had a workforce for.
Well, this turns out to be a big deal, doesn't it? We have a tough world out there. We have our competitors everywhere. Education is a major issue. And in many ways, people would say, well, Georgia's lagged behind other states. People might say, well, we're in a real progressive northeastern state, and look how much better our schools are, and look how much better our workforce is. So the idea was we're going to put some new factory, or we'll put some new cutting-edge technology in a state with good educational circumstances. And the idea is there's some lagging going on in Georgia. And what about that? I mean, what were the statistics? Do you know offhand?
We had about, by 2020, the workforce needed about 60% of Georgia to have some sort of post-secondary degree or credential. And Georgia was about at 42% in 2011 when we did that scan. So it was a very huge gap that was evident in our state. And so there has been a number of different initiatives that were put in place to help close this gap, with starting at our K-12 going on to post-secondary institutions, our USGs and technical colleges and our private institutions. And so really, Reach was part of that, trying to fill the gap of the needs-based funding and needs-based students in Georgia. And so, because we have had hope for roughly 20 years in Georgia, so we have a great merit-based scholarship program in the state. But we had prior to Reach being started in 2012, nothing focused on needs-based students. And about 2 in 5 low-income students in Georgia graduate from high school in 4 years. And then about 50% of those who do graduate actually go on to try and get a post-secondary degree. So there really was a major gap, specifically with our low-income students.
So in a way, we could say, well, there's been a lot of attention to the college arrangements. There are many schools out there. I mean, there are local ones. They're all over the state. The community college apparatus, and then actually they're more than that these days. They've really been hopped up a lot, and their access. The higher education access is really out there, and a lot of it is efforts are made to make it affordable. There are different ways that happens. There are Pell Grants. There's a big encouragement, and there's the Hope Scholarship.
Right.
And so there's huge effort to do that, but the intake into that apparatus was compromised, particularly in low-income students. Is that correct?
That's correct. And really, it's these students that are not graduating from high school, even though the access is there and even the affordability is there. It's really they're not getting these students to cross over this threshold to even enter into our institutions of higher ed. in Georgia. So that's kind of why REACH was started, and we start in the 8th grade with these students.
Yes.
To really focus on getting them prepared for college, getting them prepared for graduating from high school first off, and really partnering them with a mentor, someone who has graduated from high school, gone to college, or either at least in college, and then partnering them with an academic coach, because we know that these kids need more than just the financial component to be able to graduate from high school and go on to post-secondary.
So we have a situation where the door is open. It's just, can you walk over there and exit through the door?
That's correct.
And but many people do not.
Right.
So if you look at there are a lot of socioeconomic factors going on, and the prisons are just full of people, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, many areas in the state are just terrible situation for young people, particularly I would say young men that wind up in prison. The drug abuse issue is terrible.
Yes.
So there's a huge amount of human wastage that's taking place in the state, and the governor, and I know his wife is a former school teacher and very devoted to this. So the idea is, what can you do to help these young people at risk? What can you do to make things better? And what exactly, like you mentioned some of the things. So how did all this, it's 2012, the governor believes something that should be done here, and then he established this, I think this is a quasi-public-private arrangement. What exactly happened?
Yes, so in 2012, they started the REACH Georgia pilot. Piloted in 3 school systems in 2012. One was up north in Rabun County, one was south of Bibb in Dodge County, and then the other one was in Douglas County. And really did that, then added 2 more school systems the following year, and kind of did a 2-year pilot. They saw that this was well accepted from our school systems, from the communities, and so went on to continue the program. And now we have just added year 5. We're going into year 5 of the program and have 69 school systems across the state and roughly 680 students. And really what we do is it's a public, private, and state local partnership. It is, we want to go into these and partner not with just the school system, but also with the community to support these kids and to make sure that these kids are participating in what is going on in the community and the community needs, because that's where the workforce needs is in the community.
Yes. So are there any other programs like this around the country, or is this something that's just hashed out, or where did the idea come from?
There is one. There is a program in Florida called Take Stock in Children, and it has been for about 20 years now. So kind of about the same time that Georgia has had the Hope Scholarship Program. Looked at that, kind of adapted it for Georgia and for the needs, and so we saw such great success from Florida and from targeting these low income, really needs based and at risk students, young, and partnering them with a mentor, partnering them with an academic coach, and kind of took that to Georgia. And developed REACH.
So there's data saying this is a useful intervention, and in Florida the numbers are good. That's the number of people that would have presumably things would not have worked out for them, and they entered the program and they've had successful journeys thus far.
Yes, sir. And increased attendance, increased behavior, decreased behavior infractions, and increased GPA and coursework. And those are kind of the 3 factors that we focus on with these REACH students, is making sure that these kids are not out of school and not missing school a lot, making sure that they are not getting in trouble, and then maintaining at least a 2.5 GPA. What we've seen with our initial graduates, which will have 17 in May of this next year, graduate, we have about 14 out of the 17 who are graduating are on the trajectory to get the Hope Scholarship as well, which is great. And a lot of these students did not, they were BC students to begin with. And with an additional focus on maintaining good grades, with having their academic coach, their mentor, then they have exceeded our expectations and have above a 3.0 right now, which has been great to see.
Now, how are they selected? Let's start off. Georgia's going to try this experiment. It's 2012. Presumably some funds are made available. An administrative structure is put in place. 3 counties are selected. And then how are people chosen to go into this arrangement? How did you choose the young people?
The students are chosen at the local level, and one of the reasons we do this is because there are a limited number of scholarship slots available each year for the school system. We want them to be able to select the students that are really the most in need and that show the most promise, because we don't want to necessarily, it's not a dropout recovery program for a kid who is not showing up to school at all, who is acting out already, but just a student that kind of has that academic promise. If they could have some additional guidance, socially, financially, then they may be able to hopefully graduate after 5 years. So the students apply, they have an application process.
One of the things that happens is this is announced that in the local school system, you have an interest in doing this, and then applicants come forward and they fill an application out. And how does that work? How many people apply? How is it
it is
broadcast or talked about?
It's varied in different school systems, and we want to kind of let each school system figure out what works best in their community and their school system. Some of them have principals, teachers, academic coaches, counselors nominate the students to then apply for the program, and then they set up a selection committee. For instance, Bibb County this past year was its first year of doing it. Students were nominated to apply for the program. They took a pool, I believe, of 25 different applicants, looked at their applications, and the application has parent involvement on there, making sure that the parent is also filling out the application, knows that this is something that the student is going to apply for and what's to interview for, and we make sure we have the parents' consent. And one of the reasons why we start with that on the application from the parent is because we want them to be committed to the student and to helping the student succeed. So many times you see, one of the risk factors is because there's no parent involvement at all for these kids. And so it's kind of doing a disservice to the student that the parent's not encouraging them to go to school. The parent is not encouraging them to, graduate from high school and go on to post-secondary. So that's kind of another area. And then once the student and the parent fills out this application, set up a selection committee. And we ask that the selection committee may be made up of members of the community, so that it is not just a school system choosing the students, but it really is a community effort. There is the financial piece that the community has to raise a portion of the scholarship that we can talk about in a moment. But we believe that having these faces outside of the school that are there, talking with the kids, can that be the first step of getting the community involved. And we've really seen great results of starting with that going across the state.
And so we have this nomination takes place. What grade are the children in?
They're rising 8th graders.
Oh, so they're really young.
Yes, they're very young.
Really young.
We want to get them before they transition into high school.
Yes, and some of the ideas about this have been worked out in Florida. So you have sort of a blueprint about how to do this different ways. All right. So these young people are chosen, and I guess the trumpets blow, the bugles blow. It's kind of a big honor, isn't it? I mean, they're proud, their parents are proud.
It is, and we kind of we sign the students on as official REACH scholars in the 8th grade. And we do a signing ceremony. So this past year we held over 69 signing ceremonies across the state. And the community comes together to support these scholars. Sometimes the newspaper or TV shows come out to honor these students. It's kind of like an athletic signing ceremony. Really focusing on academics and making sure that, it's the students are focusing on academics early, the parents are focusing on academics early, the community is seeing how important academics is, and also the school system, making a big deal out of academics early and an academic scholarship early. in a lot of our communities in Georgia, another reason why we have really tried to get the community involved is because in far too many, 2 out of 10 adults don't have anything, past even have a high school credential. And that's just kind of creating that generational poverty that we see all across our state. And a lot of these students, I mean, they're not graduating from high school because their parents didn't graduate, and the parents didn't graduate. So we really have tried to make sure that this is a community effort, a parent involvement, and all around supporting the student and making sure that they cross over the finish line.
So the students receive the honor, and so the treatment there's something new is going to happen. They're going to have a coach, a mentor. How are they selected? What are their responsibilities? What happens then for these young 8th graders at that point?
The school system is the one who is kind of choosing the mentors and choosing the academic coaches. What they do is a lot of times partner with an existing mentoring program in the community to have the Reach Scholars mentored by already existing mentors within the community, or ones that are an already existing mentor program be brought in. So Bibb County School System, for instance, partnered with an existing mentor program within the community, and then said, we have a need of 8 students to be mentored this next year, 8 Reach students. And so the role of the mentor is really to be a role model for these kids and to talk to them about social situations. Maybe there's a problem at home that they need to discuss with their mentor. Maybe there's a class that they're not doing well in that they need to discuss. Really be that person, like a coach, kind of like a football coach or a band coach, that has been that good role model for the students, but someone outside of the school, someone outside of the parent, to be that role model for the kid.
So this happens. The structure is put in place, and then there's some reward for the student. I mean, what happens? What's in it for the student? What special attention might the student have besides this?
The student receives a $10,000 scholarship, and that's kind of when the public-private partnership comes into place. We do receive state appropriations from the Georgia General Assembly to help fund these scholarships. And then we do statewide funding across the state and across all of our Reach communities. We want, so it's kind of a 3-part funding formula that we receive state appropriations, we do statewide fundraising to help fund this, and then the local communities come in and put a portion of the scholarship fund. So they put in about $2,500 per every $10,000 scholarship for the students, and that's all raised locally. We go out to local businesses, local families, grants locally. There's all different kind of funding formula ways that these school systems are raising money, and the Reach Georgia program supports all the school systems in raising the money as well.
So it's a pretty big incentive. I mean, if you're modest economic circumstances, you're a 13-year-old young man or young lady, that's a lot of money. It just comes to you, and there's a long distance between the 8th grade and graduating.
Right.
And so what happens if the young person runs amiss there, doesn't work? I mean, might they lose that? What happens? They don't graduate, or comments about that? What happens if they don't successfully complete the program?
So if they don't successfully complete the program, then that $10,000 scholarship that we would have held for that student would be to go back to choose another student in the 8th grade, and kind of you would start over, because we don't want to just throw the money at a student in the 12th grade and hope that they will be successful. We really believe that starting young with these students will get them on the path to complete high school, and then we'll get them on the path to get a post-secondary credential or degree.
So there's $10,000 there, and you mentioned 14 out of the 17 are getting Hope scholarships. So how does that work? I mean, you're getting that $10,000 goes into whatever the Hope scholarship does not cover, or what occurs?
Right, that's correct, because a lot of these students, are actually almost all of these students, will receive Pell to some degree. And then if they get Hope, then Reach would cover anything that those do not cover. So Reach scholarship covers the cost of attendance. So books, a lot of these students, food, housing. There's lots of expenses outside of just the cost of tuition. So it really covers the cost of attendance that's set by all of our post-secondary institutions. And so because we want these students to be able to graduate with little to no debt, so that they, are continuing to finish because we have seen so many statistics that if these kids, finish their first year with $20,000 in debt, they have no incentive to continue on.
Yes.
So we're hoping that, with the Pell, with the majority receiving Hope, and then Reach, that we really can kind of bridge that gap between the cost of attendance and the debt that the student.
Now, are there statistics? So this intervention has occurred with a rising 8th grader, and are there statistics to say what happens? I mean, in other words, the sort of the journey the young person was on. Can you say, well, your grades have jumped up 2 letter grades, and we track this, and statistically making a huge difference, and this is the investment, and this is what's happened, and so it's been an enormously positive outcome. Are there statistics on the subject?
Yes, and we're actually in the process of gathering. We'll have probably in the next few months, we'll have a lot more statistics on our students. But we have, in at least the first few cohorts, we have about, if you compare kind of prior to Reach, and then once they were in the program for 2 years, then we have about a 30% decrease in behavior infractions, and then about a 60% decrease in the number of unexcused absences. So, and then we have, I want to say, we have a 100% increase in grades with all of our students.
Really?
Yes, all of our students have increased their grades to some degree.
So that sounds pretty positive. Now, obviously, it's a terrifically difficult situation many people find themselves in, families find themselves in, and there are life rafts out there, there are rescue efforts. This is one of them. Is there an idea the mentor particularly might say, well, church attendance would be good, young person's activities, Boy Scouts would be a great thing. I mean, is there encouragement to sort of look, let's stay out of let's avoid drugs, let's avoid the gang world. What about the Boy Scouts? What about play football?
Yes.
What about that sort of?
And we really do encourage all of our, not just our mentors, but our Reach program coordinators, the academic coaches, to talk to them about extracurricular activities, because that's where so many of them, gear towards the band and football and Boy Scouts rather than, like you said, drugs.
Yes.
And we have done, from the state, have tried to put opportunities out there for the kids to, one, interact with each other, and then have other opportunities to be a part of. There's a program called 21st Century Leaders that is offered within the state, and it's a leadership development week-long course, and that they can participate in. And we try to give those kind of opportunities to the students, as well as encouraging them 4-H. In a lot of the communities where 4-H is very prevalent, and we have seen a very increase just from personal stories that we hear from these scholars, of how one scholar, that her mom was in and out of jail, her dad was not in her life, she had a very bad home life, and she, prior to being chosen as a Reach Scholar, was involved in zero academic type, key club or anything like that activities, zero extracurricular activities as well, and now is in the band, is in got in key club. I mean, so it just really has encouraged the student to overall, because we want to make sure that we're increasing not just their academics, but their social positivity as well.
So one of the things going on is a collaborative effort between many different structures, many different political arrangements, different locations. So the program started with 3 counties, and it's progressively increased every year. And how many counties are there now?
There are there's really, we look at it at school systems. So there's So we're in 69 school systems around the state right now. So some of those, some counties have a city school system
so there's more. I think there are 159 counties in Georgia,
Right.
if I'm right on that.
Right.
But there are actually even more school systems
Yep.
than that.
Yes.
So it's it's still a substantial minority of the whole arrangement in the state. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep. So we're and then we're hoping to increase into about 30 new school systems this next school year for the 2017-2018 school year. So we really are growing exponentially and hope to have another 500 to 550 students selected as 8th graders.
Now, what's the story in Bibb County? How did that work out, and why don't you talk about that? What's happening locally? And I think the first-year program is there in the
Yes,
works. What happened?
we are in the first year of the program. We have had great support from everyone from the superintendent to the board members to the local program coordinator. She's been very involved, and they did a great community selection process in Bibb County. They selected 8 students this past year. They all received $10,000 scholarships. We did a great signing ceremony for these kids, and they have partnered with a local mentoring program here, and they are all receiving mentoring and as well as additional academic counseling.
And seemingly they're doing fine, the
Yes.
first 8.
Yep, they are.
And so the idea is to expand the program, is that right? Both around the state and also in each of the districts. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct. So next fall, we'll select 8 more students in Bibb County, or hope to select 8 more students. So what we'll be doing in conjunction with the school system is fundraising over this next year in Bibb County to make sure that these students can receive the full $10,000 scholarship, and that we can bring on 8 new scholars. So it is kind of, as we look for these, to make sure the ones that are current REACH scholars are successful, but we also want to look at growing the cohort and adding another cohort of 8 students next year.
And there are local counties too that do this. I mean, we're at Bibb County, but I think Twiggs one of the first?
Twiggs.
What's the Twiggs story? Isn't that a rather good one?
Yes,
Why don't you talk about that?
Twiggs County, to help with their fundraising, they do put on a gala every year. And the
Yes.
gala has, they cook the food, the school system cooks the food. They sell tables and seats for this gala. They have the REACH scholars serve the food to all of the guests to kind of get them, participating in there. And they also have local community members who come and sing and kind of put on a show for the community and celebrate the scholars. Let the scholars they always play a video of the scholars talking about why they wanted to be a REACH scholar. And it really just brings the community as a whole together to celebrate academics, to celebrate these scholars that are chosen, and to help fundraise for the next cohort of scholars.
Now, is that just doing something like that? Is it, in general, is that the sense of hope in sort of distressed circumstances that people say, "Wow, maybe this could happen to me," or does it generally send the message that people at risk, we really care about you, I know your life is difficult, but we really, society wants you to win. We want you to succeed. And does that have any
We
effects?
have seen a lot, because since there are, only 8 students per year in large school systems, or 5 students per year in small school systems that can be selected per year, then there are, limitations to that number. So really what we have encouraged is that these other REACH other students of the same risk factors, be paired with a mentor, be paired with an academic coach. Yes, they might not get the REACH scholarship, but there's other scholarship opportunities out there like Hope and Pell that can help them, access college and have that financial support as well. So we really have seen kind of a trickling effect of not just, it being an influence on the individual REACH scholars' lives, but their siblings, their families. We've had a parent go back to get additional schooling ever since their student was selected.
Yes.
So we really are trying to, make it about the community and about the success of not just the scholar.
Well, Cindy, thank you so much. To shake hands with you.
Yes,
Thank you so much for coming, and you're doing great work.
Well, thank you.
Keep it up, and come back and talk to us again
Thank you
about.
for having me.
Good. We'll hear some more success stories.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you for
you.
being here. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by the Georgia Neurosurgical Institute. For over 50 years, rendering neurosurgical care to patients of all social conditions, treating complicated problems involving the brain, spine, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves, endeavoring to encourage quality care, medical research, innovation, and education on a local, national, and international basis.